Start spreading the new.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.
Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer! Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection. Puts up the three. Won't go. Rebound box. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang!
What's going on, people? Welcome back to the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron. It's been a minute. Haven't been able to do a podcast for almost a few months, but I'm back at it. We're going to make time. A lot of stuff going on in the world of basketball. So let's dive right into it. Man, NBA draft lottery was surprising, right? And somehow, some way, the NBA gods said, "You know what, Nico? We're gonna give you one. We're gonna give you one. You don't give up on Luca. We're gonna bless you. We're gonna bless you, and we're going to give you the number one pick." And it's absolutely crazy. And as you see there, the odds, the draft order, and it was just absolutely shocking that they wound up with the number one pick in the draft. And as you see, the Spurs follow up at 76ers, Hornets, Jazz, and the Wizards obviously um, not feeling not feeling blessed, along with the Pelicans, the Nets. Those are probably the biggest losers. Then you got the Raptors, Rockets, Blazers, Bulls, Hawks, and the Spurs back at it with um, closing out the NBA lottery, and it was absolutely it was, man, it was intense. Like I wasn't even I'm not even my team's a win away from going to the Eastern Conference Finals, so it wasn't really for it felt good to not actually be stressed out. But I was at work, and I was with a Spurs fan, Spurs buddy of mine at work, and he's he's sweating it out, and not I'm thinking about, what if the Spurs get the number one pick? What if the Wizards? Honestly, the Mavs weren't even. I never even thought about I never even thought about the Mavs getting the number one pick. To be honest, I'm thinking about every other team but the Mavs. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way they're gonna give them the number one pick, right? That's not gonna happen, right? They're not gonna. NBA gods aren't gonna bless the Mavericks after the whole Luca stuff, and little did we know, um, the NBA gods blessed him. NBA gods blessed him, and they gave him the number one pick. It was absolutely, absolutely insane that it was able to happen. So Spurs, Hawks, Bulls, and it's crazy because from what I heard, from what we were told, is that the Bulls and the Mavs were tied, right? I think that was the case. They were tied, and it came down to a flip of a coin, and that's how the Mavs essentially got the number one pick. Could have been the Bulls, but the Bulls always decide to love being 500, love playing 500 ball. So that was something interesting. But then, like, if you your Nets, the Pelicans, the Wizards, the Jazz, the Hornets, more of the Jazz, Wizards, Pelicans, Nets, you got to be can't be feeling good. The Jazz, literally the worst team in the NBA. Now bless the Wizards. You got to feel for them. You absolutely got to feel for them. But it, it was it was wild, man. It was wild just to think that. I mean, Nico has been absolutely killed. Right, he's been getting killed, ran through the mud, and it saved him. It's just crazy, and it's you just can't believe that this happened. He just can't believe it happened. And but what was it? 1.8% chance of getting the number one pick, and man, that's the definition of winning the lottery. You know, you got to be in it to win it, and they almost they almost made the playoffs. They were a playing team, so there was a chance that they wouldn't have. This is an afterthought, so you know they get blessed, so they're there's not and then now you hear people talking about what if they trade? No, they're not trading. Nico's not that. I mean, he may people may think he's stupid, but I don't know if he's this stupid. So I doubt they trade Cooper Flag. Now I can see like an Anthony Davis, them flipping him and just being like, yo, let's just go to youth movement. I could see that happening. I think they can get a lot for Anthony Davis, but Cooper Flag will be a Dallas Maverick. That's I'm pretty confident in that. So, but then the Spurs again get blessed. I mean, yeah, they didn't get the number one pick, but they still got a hell of a player. They're gonna get a hell of a player potentially in uh in Dylan Harper. If they, obviously we know the rumors about Giannis, so that's something that could be used in a trade package potentially. So because they do have Castle, they do have De'Aaron Fox. I would probably expect them to try to bring back. Is Chris Paul on the roster next year? I'm not sure if he's a free agent or not, but so there's actually a little logjam for them. So I could see them even potentially trading down. To maybe get some more assets to maybe make that Giannis thing potentially happen. So, but Philadelphia gets the third pick. They get a top four pick. Their pick was top 5 or 6 protected. So they will end up being a winner for me for sure. Charlotte gets 4. Obviously Utah's at 5, and it they're probably gonna get another guy that's gonna be a part of that core. There's just no true blue chippers. So that's why they really needed to at least get top 2. Um, but that's why it's the lottery. It's a crapshoot. The Wizards again fall. Um, but I think the Wizards are. I've always tried to clown the Wizards because I always felt like they've just I don't know. It's just been bad. Like they're definitely one of the worst organizations in sports. There's just not a lot of success. But they're in a good spot. Even with the 6 pick, I know it's not ideal, but I feel like they're on the up. You know, um, Will Dawkins is I think he's from OKC. I think he'll do some good things, and I think they're still heading in the right direction. So not ideal, obviously. You would love to have got Cooper or at least Dylan Harper. Dylan Harper, but they still can get a solid player. Pelicans get 7. They're going to be in a tough spot, man. Brooklyn gets 8. You know, that's just another. Obviously not what they expected, but it's still can get a good player, and then listen, there's Giannis rumors too with them. Same thing with the Raptors too. Another piece, with that 9th pick, they're also in Giannis rumors too. The Rockets get 10. Portland Trailblazers too. Well, like I heard they were like a ping pong ball away from getting number one pick. Obviously, the Bulls are at 12. They were, you know, uh, a loser in this because they were so close to getting number one potentially. And then Atlanta's 13. They got that from the Sacramento Kings, and then the Spurs get their pick from Atlanta. Who did Atlanta get that pick? Their pick. Oh, Sacramento. I just said Sacramento. So that rounds out the lottery. So it was an interesting day. Mavericks get the number one pick, and it's crazy. Comes out real quick. They're not trading number one pick. I kind of figured that. You definitely can't do that twice in a. You can't trade a generational player, then trade a potential generational player. That's just that'll get you fired. That'll get you fired. But just think about it. Just think about this. You know, there's not a lot of people who can get like a mulligan. Uh, you know, you know, you don't get this type of breaks, and for Dallas, the Luca. It's one thing to trade Luca, but man, just the economical, ramifications from that were just massive. And this kind of gets people to be like, okay, you traded our guy, you traded our, that was our Dirk Nowitzki, that was going to be our forever player, but you traded him and you lost us. But this gives and this also, but Nico doesn't get a pass for this because this is honestly just pure luck, right? This nothing. Nico didn't do anything, to make this happen. It's just literally you just luck. Like it's just pure luck. And I know there's a lot of people thinking it's a fix. It's kind of hard to rig the NBA lottery. I used to be one of the conspiracy theory guys, but it is hard to rig it. Maybe they can, but just hearing many people talk about the process and it's pretty hard to rig it. But uh, it's you don't get an opportunity to get a restart in this way to be like, all right, we traded our best generational player, Luca, all NBA 5 times with them, just went to the finals and you trade him and then you're kind of stuck and Kyrie gets hurt and AD's has been dealing with injuries and you get a you get blessed with the number one pick, and it's not like it was last year's. Where if you'd have got number one, like good players, Rishi Shea, Sar, Castle, but Cooper Flag is different. Even if they got two, they would have gotten Dylan Harper. I would have been like, wow. I mean, that's a good piece. But to get Cooper Flag and box office too, that's massive because they took a pretty big financial hit, and now you can maybe recoup some of that. So I mean, it's just crazy how they got it. Like I said, I didn't even think about Dallas in the maybe they can get the number one pick. And I think I was listening to some show on the volume, and they were talking about one guy was talking about Dallas, and it's like I hope they don't get it because you don't want them to uh to get blessed after what they did with the whole Lucas stuff. But I still it never suited me like, maybe Dallas can get it. I was just like, I just don't think they're going to get it. But they got the number one pick. So good for them, and let's see how they build this team, because now they have a great piece and that's going to get the building back, you know, back going. And obviously Kyrie's going to miss significant time, and but you still got AD there, you still got Derek Lively, so you got some potential big pieces. Like I said, if I'm them, I may consider trading Anthony Davis and let's go with the full young. You got Derek Lively there, you got some pieces teams will want, so you can get some significant, you can get some assets. So Dallas, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. They went from, maybe, the, had not having such a bright future to, the future might be bright. Nico's love defense, and he might get the best defender in the draft. So Nico low key, must be thrilled because that's a huge monkey off his back. Because I genuinely did feel bad for him. What he probably had to deal with, just being in the public and, probably what he's been told and, the death threats and all that nonsense. So as a human being, you know, um, I'm happy in that sense that he's got that off of him because that's a huge burden to have and everything with all the nasties that came after the Luca stuff. Which it should never get to that level of nasty, but definitely criticism, but not to the level that he probably had to deal with. But this obviously gives him a little bit of break, and now we see how he built. And yeah, the lottery is definitely one of the more crazier NBA lotteries that we've seen. So but as we get to that, we are this is Wednesday, and the Knicks are a win away from heading to the Eastern Conference Finals, and a lot of things have happened. Unfortunately, Jason Tatum will not be playing for the rest of the playoffs. He tore his Achilles, and it's unfortunate, man. It just the Achilles. That's a massive, massive, injury. It's the timetable. What is a year to get back? And we've seen a few Achilles injuries this season, and it's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate. So you feel. I know it's obviously it's an intense rivalry, New York and Boston, but you feel for you don't ever want to see players, especially great players, get hurt like that, and it's unfortunate, but it's a fortunate part of the game, and he was having a really good game too. But now they're down 3-1 Boston. At back at TD, they're back at TD, and you know, uh, they could still win. They could still win. They still have the horses. Like just because I know JT not being there is obviously massive. That's their best player, but they still. I wouldn't be shocked if they win this game just off pure adrenaline and just emotion. So but on the other end, I think I don't know if it was Tim Bontemps or whatever, or someone said they were at the lot in the locker room after after game 5, and they said that they didn't feel it felt like it was like a funeral. Like it was everyone's down, and it's just obviously you lose Tatum, and that's just massive, right? It's a massive blow to lose your best player to that significant of an injury. It's one thing if he's out because sprain, high ankle sprain, or a ligament tear, a slight, if that's something you can live with, right? You'd be like, all right. But Achilles, that could be career altering. That could be career. Now we've seen guys come back from it, but that's massive. I mean, Dame, we saw Dame go down with it, and he's older. Dame's what, in his mid 30s. So, but it's tough. That's tough, and that means we won't see Tatum for maybe the whole season, or maybe until the end of the year. But the New York Knicks are a win away from heading to their first Eastern Conference final since 2000 when they played Indiana. Um, and since then, only them, the Wizards, and the Hornets in the Eastern Conference. They're the only three teams that have not made it to the Eastern Conference since the last time the Knicks made it. So I want to get that nastiness. I don't never want to be I never want to be in a category with the Wizards or the Charlotte Hornets because that means it's nasty. So, you know, hopefully we can, end that, streak, that 25-year drought of not being in the Eastern Conference Finals um and get back there. But we got we got that, so that's going to be pivotal. Obviously Jalen Brunson living up to his build as the most clutch player, and he's just been terrific, man. What he can do, his counters, like it's just yeah. And this kind of correlates to like come the draft. A lot of people saw the draft measurements of certain players, like a Todd Pettiford and um Chase Richardson, and forgetting one more guy, kind of smaller guy. But they were down on because of their measurements, and I'm just like, no, man, we can't just give up on a guy because his measurements to say, because we would have done that with Jalen Brunson too, coming out of them, and that's probably why he was a second round pick because of that. But you watch him play, and you're like, oh man, I remember watching him early in Dallas and being like, they let him get to the second round. Like I even thought being a second round pick, regardless, was insane. But early on, even in limited time earlier, obviously they had Luca, but you're just like, this kid, he's a baller. He's a baller, and that's why just don't I saw people be like I'm out on Jace Richardson, I'm out on Pettiford, I'm out on some of the other smaller guards who kind of measured in short. Nah, just watch them. Just watch them play. Watch them play basketball. Watch them play basketball. Don't we get so sometimes when we see we get so caught up in the measurements and the wingspan. And I used to do this early on when I used to do a lot of NBA draft, early on and when I was evaluating guys, I would, oh man, that wingspan. You can get in trouble falling in love with wingspans. Can this dude play? Does he have NBA traits? That's what you gotta look up. And you see Jalen Brunson and what he can do as an under the rim type of player. All his counters, jab, this it's just it's beautiful. It's beautiful and big reason why and even when he's not playing well, he figures the way to get it done. And one thing I've noticed, he's taking another step in his game, not just in his scoring. We know he's going to score. We know he's going to be able to shoot the three well. His mid-range game is elite. His getting to the basket's elite. The passing, the playmaking has risen. It's gotten better in the playoffs, and you saw that towards the latter end of the season for me. And then in the playoffs, I feel like his playmaking has leveled up. So I mean, 12 assists, 7 assists, 7 assists, 7 assists. Like it's just he's leveled up on his playmaking. So that's the one thing I'm just absolutely thrilled with Brunson is now. Yeah, the scoring is there, and even when he had some tough scoring games, especially against Detroit. They were playing him tough, and even in this series, he's had a couple tough, shooting percentage games, but it's the playmaker. Because if it wasn't for that, this series could be 2-2, 3-1 the other way, or for instance, we might not even be in the second round if his playmaking didn't level up. So shout out to Brunson for being a better playmaker, improving the playmaking, especially on the road. He's been really good being a playmaker on the road. So um, that's been significant for the Knicks, and they're a win away from going to the Eastern Conference Finals. A team that's not going to the Eastern Conference Finals, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they got bounced in five. Obviously, some injuries early on in the series, but obviously the devastating way they lost game two. I mean, that really was the one. They needed to steal that. Even with all the injuries, they should have won that basketball game and they blew it. And they took care of business in game three and then, got smacked in four. And then game five, you know, just their role players didn't show up. Ty Jerome did not have a great, he cost himself some money. Max Struess talking all that stuff for the game, you don't believe in us, blah, blah, blah. And then 0 of 8, 0 of 5 from three. You just can't do that. So the role players didn't step up at all. And even some of their big time. I mean, Donovan Mitchell showed up. And obviously Garland was definitely hobbled with the toe. So that really affected them. But a lot of people talking about, what do they need to do? I think they're gonna run it back. I think they're just gonna go back and be like, all right, Garland was hurt. I mean, Mobley was hurt. Everyone, or even Donovan is a little banged. Like I think they're gonna test it just to injuries, and but they do need to get some more dynamic guard play. Especially obviously Donovan Mitchell is Donovan Mitchell, but you need someone else that you can kind of help to create. Because especially in the playoffs, man. Like Ty Jerome was a most improved candidate. He was really good this year, but the playoffs just man, he looked unplayable at times. He looked lost. Same thing with Max Struess. He is what he is. But their offense didn't look as dynamic as it did in the regular season, and then defensively they were, especially when they had like Max Strus, Ty Jerome, or like or Merrill, Sam Merrill in there. Like defensively, they were getting pretty obliterated on the perimeter. So got to figure that out. But shout out to Indiana too. You got to give them credit too. I know we want to talk about the Cavs kind of being frauds as the number one seed, but they both they did their thing, man. They applied the pressure. Halliburton, you know, uh, especially the second half of the season, you know, not even so much second half season there since end of December-ish, January, picked up and played all the NBA basketball, and that's going to be obviously a potential fun matchup with him and Brunson, in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting off season for the Cavs. I don't think they do anything significant. I think they kind of run it back and just see if they can, you know, match the success they had in the regular season. But going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see what they do. I threw out maybe Giannis. Threw out maybe Giannis, but like I said, I think they run it back and bring back the main core. They bring back the main core. So, but in who else? We got Minnesota 3-1 against Golden State. I think they close it out, and Minnesota will advance to the Western Conference Finals again. And then so I think no Steph. It's gonna be tough for them to score. Steve Kerr, what he did to Kaminga, I just don't get that. He should have been playing him, but it's a little too late for that. And then OKC and the Nuggets has been tremendous. That's been a absolutely, other than game two, that was an absolute beat down. It's been a fun series. It's been a fun series. It could go. It could easily have gone either way. So it's it's been an absolute joy. Like that, those are games I'm staying up to watch. I'm staying up to watch those games because they've been very very good. Um, like I said, other than game two, it's been it could have went either way in any game. So but we got game six coming up tomorrow. So we'll see who comes out. But I think the playoffs have been just so much fun, man. Like I said, I've been dying to get on the podcast. Like I said, I haven't potted in a little bit, but I've been dying because I just wanted to talk about the playoffs and just how good it has been. It has been, we've seen, Jokic just doing Superman things. Like he's looked amazing, and what Jalen Brunson was able to do, and you know, it just, we're gonna might get an unconventional, conference finals. We might get Knicks versus Pacers and a OKC, versus OKC versus Minnesota final. Like unconventional. A lot of people thought those are I mean, at one point, Minnesota people were down on Minnesota. Like it was like, oh man, like Ant-Man trade rumors and like, oh man, you got to get rid of Julius Randle, all this, and they went away from going back to the conference finals. And it's just crazy how the playoffs. Look at the Knicks. Look at the Knicks. People were like, they got no chance against Boston. And listen, I'll say this straight up. I thought Boston would beat us in 7. But I remember telling people like, hey man, you don't think they're gonna be blowing us out. Like what you saw in the regular season, that's not happening. That's not happening. They're not gonna blow us out by 30. It's going to be great games. And listen, the first 3 games were all, they blew us out in game 3, and listen, they were up by 15, 14, 15 in game 4, so like, but I'm like, but obviously the Knicks came back in 3 of those games, but obviously, I was just like, they're not going to destroy us. It's a different mentality, a different game. And, you know, uh, if you're Boston, you got to feel sick because you're a veteran team and you let those two, you can easily be up 3-1. You could just sweat. Realistically, it could be a sweep. You should have won the first 2 games. You destroy them in game 3, and then you up 14. Maybe the way the world works, the Tatum injury never happens. You know, but we'll never know. But if you're Boston, you got to feel sick because this might be it. This might be it. So that's unfortunate on their end. But the Knicks, going back to the Knicks, like people were down on the Knicks. They can't they getting throttled by the Cavs or getting throttled by the Boston Celtics in the regular season. They have no chance. And I remember thinking, can't say we don't have a chance. We all know playoff basketball is completely different than regular season basketball. So we're gonna see a different type of Knicks team. We know the playoffs are more physical, more half court style. And we also know that the Celtics can sometimes play with their food. And listen, what the Celtics can take all those threes and do that. And if they play in Orlando or any of the bottom, teams in the bottom contenders in the East, they can win despite, missing 30, 40, 50 threes. Can't do that against the Knicks. So my thinking was like, you can't play that style against the Knicks, and you kept doing it. And you kept missing threes, and you kept doing it. And you just gave the Knicks hope, because I'll never understand that. I'll never understand that, because that's something a young team could do. But it felt like at times the Celtics looked like they were like the Houston Rockets, like a young team that just doesn't understand the moment. Like, this team just won the NBA Finals. Like, they were in the NBA Finals 2 years ago. They're always in the Eastern Conference Finals. It just doesn't make sense how they let that happen. But unfortunately, this might be it for them. With Tatum, you know, possibly out for all of next season. This is a very expensive team. Got, expect at least two of these guys from their core, Porzingis or Drew Holiday, to not be there. It's that window may have shut for Boston. So, but man, a lot of stuff going on. I got the NBA draft combine going on. I'm gonna do some more NBA draft stuff. I'm gonna work on doing more shows. Like I said, my work schedule got crazy, so I was just trying to get comfortable with the job, and before I get back to doing podcasting. But I'm gonna get back. I got a few days off during the week, and but I'm gonna do some more short form shows. In the early mornings. Maybe do one every other day. I'm gonna get back to the grind, off the ball podcast, baby. Appreciate everyone's ever supported. But NBA playoffs are we're getting close to the East, the conference finals. We might have two more teams. We got the Pacers are stamped in. Can the Knicks join them today? Can the Minnesota be the first team in the West to go to the conference finals? We shall see, man. I'm gonna keep this show short. I'm gonna get some more draft content, for you guys as we get closer and closer. But yeah, man, appreciate everyone who tuned in. Always a pleasure to get back. I was excited, but I was nervous too. I was nervous. It's been a little bit, man. They make sure I've been on my game, but appreciate everyone who's on the live. I'm going to be on doing a TikTok live around 6 o'clock Knicks Boston, probably like 5:30, 6 o'clock. Get on live. Make sure to follow me there, Chris LeBron. I think Chris LeBron OTB. Can follow me there. Hey, you need tickets? You want a little couple dollars off? I know these Knicks tickets are crazy. If you want a little $20 off, make sure to use the promo code OTB Ball, OTB all caps. Ball to get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek.com. So on that note, everyone be well, be safe, take care, and man, we're getting close. We're Knicks fans, we feel it. We're feeling it, man. It's exciting times in New York right now. So very excited about what could potentially be a closeout win in the first Eastern Conference Finals since 2000 for your New York Knickerbockers. So very excited about that. So on that note, everyone be safe. Off the Ball podcast, Chris LeBron, we out.
Start spreading the news.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
New York, I love you. I love New York.